There's a narrative floating around the basketball world that Michael Jordan never faced tough competition in the finals.
Because when you think about the word scary, I mean, who fit that more than Michael Jordan? I mean, what that brother did on the basketball court, he scared the living hell out of all the opposition.
It's the go-to jab for anyone trying to chip away at his greatness.
To this day, I've never experienced an environment like playing against Michael Jordan in Chicago Stadium. It was like the Beatles. I would describe it like that. It was like that when we were going to play them. You know, it's like we're about to go off, we're being fed to slaughter. Like that's what it felt like.
Scroll through the comments under any Jordan highlight and you'll find it. Some variation of he didn't play anyone good, weak era, or those teams wouldn't survive today. No super teams, no dynasties, just a smooth ride to 6 rings, right? Not so fast. That narrative is just wrong. It's disrespectful to the history of the game and to the squads that stood across from MJ on basketball's biggest stage.
The best player in the league when you first got in was Mike, and it wasn't close.
No, Mike was in his damn prime.
When you first saw him, what was your experience?
No sleep the night before, because I was like just anxious and nervous and ready, you know, because I know I was playing against the best player ever.
Let's set the record straight. Michael Jordan didn't waltz his way to 6 titles. He went through a gauntlet of 60-win powerhouses, MVPs, all NBA defenders, and historically great offenses and defenses. Not to mention the physical, well-coached, and complete teams he had to face in the East, just to get to the NBA Finals.
Jordan and Jordan goes down hard, and he looks hurt. Mark Feil, the Chicago trainer.
The teams he faced in the finals weren't just good for the time. They'd be formidable in any era. So let's take a deep dive into each of Jordan's finals opponents. The 1991 Lakers were not some geriatric retirement tour dressed up in purple and gold. They were a 58-win team led by an MVP-level Magic Johnson, a coach in Mike Dunleavy Sr., who had just guided them through a loaded Western Conference, and a roster that was deep, versatile, and battle-tested. To understand why this series was a real fight for Jordan, and why the Lakers were no easy out, you have to go beyond the box score and look at the context, the matchups, and the stakes. Let's start with the obvious. Magic Johnson was still Magic Johnson. People love to romanticize the idea that he was past his prime by 1991. But let's check the tape. Magic averaged 19 points, 12.5 assists, and 7 rebounds per game. He was still orchestrating games like the basketball genius he was, picking defenses apart with no-look passes, post-ups, and pure basketball IQ. At 31, he wasn't old, he was seasoned. Just a year prior, he won league MVP. In 91, he finished second in voting, right behind a guy named Michael Jordan. James Worthy? Still worthy of the name. He averaged 21 points per game that season and remained one of the league's most efficient forwards. A finals MVP himself back in '88, Worthy had a reputation for showing up when it mattered most, earning the nickname Big Game James. He was fast, skilled, and knew how to find seams in any defense. Then you had Byron Scott, a former 20-point per game scorer who still had gas in the tank. Sam Perkins was a newly acquired stretch big who could space the floor with his lefty three-point shot, an extremely valuable asset in an era where few bigs could shoot from deep. AC Green, the NBA's Iron Man, brought defense, rebounding, and experience.
AC, slam dunk, his second of that nature in the game. That's authoritative.
Well, the Lakers are doing something I like right now. They're picking up and trapping with the...
And Vlade Divac, a 7-footer with passing chops and finesse, offered a versatile wrinkle to the traditional big man mold. This wasn't some over-the-hill lineup trotting out on fumes. This was a balanced team with size, skill, and championship DNA. They had already knocked off the high-octane Run TMC Warriors in the first round, and then dismantled the 63-win Portland Trailblazers in the Western Conference Finals.
Just throws it to the other end, and finally out of bounds with 1/10 of a second left. Now, you talk about the brilliance of Magic.
A team many thought would make it to the finals that year. And yet, here's where it gets even more impressive for Jordan. He wasn't just trying to win his first ring. He was trying to do it against the most successful franchise of the era. The Lakers had made the finals 9 times in the 1980s. They were the standard, the dynasty, the legacy he had to surpass. Jordan didn't walk into the finals with a crown waiting. He had to rip it off the head of Magic himself. Game 1 only added fuel to the idea that the Bulls might be too green for the moment. The Lakers went into Chicago and stole the opener behind a triple-double from Magic and some late-game heroics.
Last touch by Johnson. It will be Chicago in possession.
The Bulls had the home court advantage, and now it was gone. Critics began murmuring. Maybe Jordan couldn't get it done in the finals. Maybe the lights were too bright. But then the switch flipped. In Game 2, Jordan delivered the move. You know the one. The switch hands layup in midair, floating like gravity didn't apply to him. The Bulls win by 21.
Stacey King unleashes. The Chicago Bulls have tied the series at 1-1.
In Game 3, an overtime battle in LA, Jordan drops 29 and 13 assists while Scottie Pippen locks down defensively. The Bulls take the 2-1 lead.
Chicago Bulls have returned the favor, and Chicago wins 104.
In Game 4, it was a blowout. Chicago runs away by 15. Jordan leads the team in scoring, assists, and steals. Now, they're one win away.
Victory. In command virtually all the way. And they defeat the Los Angeles Lakers by the score of 97-82, led by Michael Jordan, who scored 28.
And in Game 5, with Worthy and Scott both hobbled, the Lakers are clearly limping. But Jordan, sensing blood in the water, doesn't let up. He put up a 30-point double-double, and the Bulls won the series.
NBA championship.
Jordan finally got his ring.
Michael, what does it mean to you?
It means so much. I mean, not just for me, but for the team, for the whole city. It's been a 7-year struggle. I mean, when I first got into Chicago, we started at the bottom, and every year we just worked harder and harder until we got to it. And it's so gratifying. I'm appreciated so long in my life. For my family, for my kids, everything. It's the most proud day I've ever had.
But let's not let the narrative become distorted by time. The 1991 Lakers weren't pushovers. They weren't lucky to be there. They had earned their way to the finals through grit, experience, and elite basketball. And though injuries to Worthy and Sky hampered their ability to fully respond, they still gave Chicago everything they had. What makes Jordan's performance so remarkable in hindsight is not just that he won. It's that he won against one of the smartest, most experienced, and most accomplished teams the NBA had to offer. He took on Magic Johnson, the man who had dominated the league throughout the 80s, and beat him at his own game. He led his team in scoring, assists, and steals in the series, outdueled one of the greatest point guards of all time, and showed the world he wasn't just a highlight reel, he was a champion. And what about the criticism that the Lakers were washed? It doesn't hold up, not when their leader was second in MVP voting.
Well, I'm here to say that I'm not going to try to make it a one-on-one situation with Magic and a Michael situation. We've been trying to get away from that stigma of Michael Jordan. This is a team we showed it here in Detroit that this is a team that can play together, and we're going to consider it the Bulls against the Lakers. If they want to, I know the media and the public's going to make it a Michael Magic situation, but we're going to stay closer to earth and keep everybody involved. And
we have become really good friends, and I think we both look forward to this day. I know he always wanted to play in the finals and have a chance to win.
Not when they were fresh off eliminating two of the most dangerous offenses in the West. Not when they won nearly 60 games and had been to the finals more times than Jordan had even made the conference finals. Next up, Clyde the Glide Drexler and the 1992 Blazers, a 57-win team with balance, depth, and experience. This was the second finals appearance in 3 years for Portland, a team with one of the best backcourts in the league. Drexler was a legitimate MVP candidate that season, finishing second only to, again, Jordan. He averaged 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists during the regular season, and was one of the few perimeter players who could match MJ's athleticism. They had Terry Porter, a criminally underrated point guard who shot over 41% from 3 and averaged 18 points per game. Buck Williams was a rugged interior presence and defensive anchor. Jerome Kersey was an athletic wing who played with relentless energy. And Cliff Robinson, still in his early years, brought size and versatility off the bench. This was a deep, physical team that could play up-tempo or grind it out. What did Jordan do? In Game 1, he torched them for 35 points, just in the first half. That was the Shrug game, a performance so absurd it looked like something out of a video game. But don't let that overshadow how tough the series was. Portland had a deep rotation, pushed Chicago to 6 games,
Blazers with their biggest lead of the night.
and was right there in Game 6 before the Bulls made a furious fourth quarter comeback.
Time running down. The Chicago Bulls have won the NBA championship for the second straight season.
Next, we have the 1993 Phoenix Suns. This was Charles Barkley's MVP season. The Suns went 62-20, the best record in the league, with Chuck averaging 25 points, 12 boards, and 5 assists. He was unstoppable in transition.
Well, that time, you had Richard Dumas guard Michael Jordan, and see, Richard Dumas is not used to running off of picks, and they set a pick on him.
Dumas with a beautiful move.
Deadly in the post, and carried Phoenix to the finals in a brutal Western Conference playoff run that included 7-game slugfests with the Lakers and the Sonics. Kevin Johnson, their dynamic point guard, could drop 20 and 10 on any given night. He was lightning quick with a nasty mid-range game and could get into the paint at will. Dan Marley was their sharpshooter and perimeter defender, shooting 39% from deep while also taking the toughest defensive assignments. Add in veterans like Tom Chambers and defensive specialist Richard Dumas, and this was an elite squad that could light you up from every angle. Game 3 was a triple overtime thriller in Chicago. The Suns could have folded after dropping the first 2 games at home, but they didn't. They fought. Barkley, Johnson, and Marley combined for 77 points. This team had everything: shooting, pace, toughness, and belief. But even with that being said, MJ crushed them in 6, ending the game with 33, 8, and 7. After returning from retirement and a mid-season tune-up in '95, Jordan came back with vengeance in 1996, and the Bulls steamrolled the league. But when they got to the finals, they ran into a defensive monster, the 64-win Seattle Supersonics. This team was no joke. Gary Payton, the Glove, was the Defensive Player of the Year, the only point guard in NBA history to win the award at the time. He was a trash-talking, ball-hawking nightmare who could switch, pick your pocket, and frustrate even the best scorers. Shawn Kemp, aka Rain Man, was one of the most explosive power forwards of the decade. In the 1996 playoffs, Kemp was averaging 20 and 10 while dunking on anything that moved. They had Detlef Schrempf, a 17-6 and 5 Swiss Army knife with range. They had Hersey Hawkins, a savvy vet and solid shooter. They had Sam Perkins, Nate McMillan. This roster was deep, switchable, and terrifying on defense. Seattle held the Bulls under 90 points in 3 straight games and forced the series to 6 after being down 0-3. Once George Karl finally put Payton on Jordan in Game 4, the series shifted. Jordan still averaged 27 points, but it was a grind. Chicago had to earn every bucket. The 1996 Sonics would have beaten most champions in modern history.
Have won the 95-96 NBA championship. Make it 4 in 6 years.
For the next one, let's lump the 97 and 98 Jazz together, because both finals were deep and both featured the same core: John Stockton and Karl Malone, the ultimate pick-and-roll duo. Karl Malone is the 3rd all-time leading scorer, and John Stockton is the all-time assists and steals leader, 2 records that most likely will never be broken. The Jazz boasted one of the deepest rosters in the NBA, and a surgical offense that carved defenses up on precision and discipline under Hall of Fame coach Jerry Sloan. Think Popovich and Tim Duncan Spurs. That type of precision and system. In fact, Popovich credits the Utah Jazz and their system for what the Spurs mimicked to build their dynasty. This is also the team that schooled the Lakers and taught them how to play basketball before Kobe and Shaq won their titles. In 1997, the Jazz went 64-18. Karl Malone was league MVP. That's right, he beat out Jordan for the award. He averaged 27 points and 10 rebounds with bruising physicality and elite footwork. Stockton? he was still dishing out 10+ assists a game while defending at a high level. These two were telepathic on the court, masters of spacing, timing, and unselfish play. They also had Jeff Hornacek, a deadly shooter with a high IQ. Brian Russell was their perimeter stopper and Greg Ostertag protected the rim. This team didn't beat itself. They were number 1 in offensive rating and played with a calm poise that could frustrate younger teams. The Jazz took out Shaquille O'Neal and the Los Angeles Lakers in 5 games before taking care of business against the Houston Rockets in 6 games, where Stockton hit his famous three-pointer over Charles Barkley in Houston to win the series. That was a Rockets team which featured Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Clyde Drexler. Utah took Chicago to the wire in Game 1, blew them out in Game 3, and only lost Game 5 thanks to the infamous flu game, when Jordan dropped 38 despite barely being able to stand. In 1998, the Jazz came back just as strong. They tied Chicago with a 62-20 record and finished second in defensive rating. The Jazz once again defeated the Houston Rockets, took out a young Tim Duncan who was paired with David Robinson in 5 games, and then dismantled Shaq and a young Kobe Bryant in a sweep. The finals rematch went 6 games again, and Jordan, pushing 35 years old, capped off the series with the last shot, a 45-point masterpiece culminating in that iconic crossover on Brian Russell.
He scores! The Bulls lead 87-86 with 5 2/10 left. Oh my goodness! He's unbelievable.
People remember the shot. They forget the context. Utah was the best team in the West with 2 Hall of Famers and a battle-tested methodical system that didn't break down under pressure. Jordan just broke them anyway. So what does it all mean? Michael Jordan's finals opponents weren't paper champions. They were legitimate threats, stacked, smart, battle-hardened squads featuring MVPs, All-Stars, and Hall of Famers. They were 60-win teams with top 10 defenses, dynamic offenses, and serious playoff pedigree. Jordan didn't just beat them, he conquered them. In an era where physicality ruled, where hand-checking was legal, where you had to fight for every layup and earn every whistle, Jordan went 6-0 on the game's biggest stage. No Game 7s, no slippage, just dominance against elite competition. Still think Jordan played pizza delivery guys to win his titles? Or what do you think? Let's see your thoughts in the comment section. Like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next video.